Chief of Staff, General George C. Marshall.
Conservation of manpower is a matter of first importance. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps was organized to assist in meeting this need by releasing soldiers from non-combat duties. These women are to take over the jobs of soldiers behind the lines and here at home.
My name is Beverly McCullough.
Jennifer Berrigan.
Shahida Rios.
My name is Jessica Tabor. I'm a Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force.
I am a member of the United States Air Force.
U.S. Army active.
I joined the U.S. Army in 1989, and my rank upon entering the service was E4, and then leaving the service, I actually finished as an E5 sergeant.
Private first class. The rank structure would actually be an E3.
Master Sergeant.
When I first joined the military, I was a 4AO, which is Medical Administration.
We asked our service members and vets about their experience with gender representation in the military.
Absolutely. So my job was a 74 Fox or computer programmer. So right there, we already know anytime you're talking about the STEM field, it's typically going to be very, very male dominated.
Yes, just as far as my job, doing training and assessing human relations environment. Like I've been into them, but I've never personally worked in one.
Before I retrained into my current career field, it was mostly men. And there were some points where I was the only female in my shop, in my flight.
I was a 35 mic, which is a human intel collector. And in that role, I did a lot of administrative work and a lot of investigative work in a male-dominated office and training environment.
The military operates with a chain of command structure. Experiences differ, but societal biases do bleed over into the military culture.
Definitely so. And the reason I think that several times on a few occasions that was directly stated to me.
I have had some experiences where I thought like, okay, would this have happened if I were a man? Would this individual have tried to talk to me in this way if I were a man?
Yes, I have felt that way several times in my career where, you know what, let me just have this person say it because it's going to come across a little bit better or more effectively than it would be coming from me.
I won't say that I expected to be challenged in those ways, but I will say that I welcomed it.
Another time, I was counseled for the actions of a male counterpart, coworker, also enlisted, but I was the one being counseled on their actions despite not being their supervisor in any capacity.
What are these stereotypes? What are these biases?
There's this idea that because we are women, oh, you're emotional, you're mothering people, you're smothering people, you're soft, you don't know how to be tough, those kind of things, those kind of comments. And God forbid you actually show some emotion, you cry or something like that, I feel you lose respect from the people around you because it's like proof for them of that stereotype, like, oh, she's soft, she's crying, we knew it, we knew you were gonna break down, we knew you were soft, we knew because you're a female, it's all about emotions, you can't be logical, that kind of thing. So I think that's the perception from a lot of leaders.
Definitely. Throughout my career in the Army, I could name several times when I was either put in positions or taken out of positions truly due to the fact of just being female.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Especially regarding PT and limitations with people and how long they can run, and always biases, always things that you see that are completely unfair. Always the comments about, oh, it's always the women that fall out of the run.
The passive-aggressive nature of these unconscious biases sometimes leads to internalized pressure.
All the time. I honestly think that that's a natural, inherent pressure almost, because I think we know as women that we have to give our best and bring our best and go above and beyond in order to be recognized, in order to be seen as being the best of the best. And so, absolutely, even today.
The amount of stress I self-induced on myself many times, just feeling inadequate because I was a woman in that field, specifically in my MOS.
No. I feel pressure because I am me and I have high expectations of myself.
And even down to the small things, hair, nails, that kind of stuff that as a woman, I feel like those feminine things that just make you unique as a woman, I just couldn't do them anymore. So I focused very much on my work, and I really burned myself out just trying to not be a male but compete with the males. And it was a game you can't win.
Pressure our servicewomen put on themselves and project to other women.
Out of a group of 5 selected for a developmental opportunity, you would probably see 1 female selected compared to 4 males, and that was pretty routine to see that. So we would it was a lot of infighting. The females would compete against each other, and instead of building each other up, they were just fighting all the time. It was a mess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would wholeheartedly concur with that. So my direct supervisor was actually a staff sergeant who was a female. And that was definitely her message to me is, if you're going to continue to excel and do well in this job field and in the Army, you're going to have to always go above and beyond it. This has to be your primary focus.
To admit this out loud, I do find myself sometimes, we've had so many changes in the military with how we treat women. And in some ways I've been jealous. I had a subordinate who had a baby about 2 years ago and was talking about the amount of time that she gets off. So it's 12 weeks now for females. And that she wanted to take additional time off after the birth of her baby. And I have to admit that I struggled a little bit because when I had both my children, I had 6 weeks off. And when she already got 12 and then she wanted additional leave on top of that, I did find myself being the person I didn't want to be. Like, well, I only got 6 weeks. She should be happy with her 12 weeks.
At the top of the military chain of command are the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a group that is historically white and male.
You're always going to notice things that are different, especially when you're looking at rules and regulations between the sexes in the military. Things regarding your hair, proper attire, the way you can wear your uniform, and those kind of things that are, of course, completely unfair.
How would you feel if I asked you, would it be fair if you were a woman and you're being held to a physical fitness standard, which is part of your job, that you have to meet that standard in order to be promoted, stay in the military, carry on with your career and your life, basically. And you're given a standard to meet, and you feel capable of meeting that standard. You can do that. However, the resources and equipment you're provided are different because you're a woman. Your uniform is different because you're a woman. All the way down to the smallest detail, you are prescribed what you can and can't wear, from socks, shoes, undergarments especially. And even as a woman, you're told what type of undergarments, specifically like sports bras, that you can wear. Now, everybody is different. Every man is different. Every woman is different. But you can't tell me that a man at the top of the chain making a decision can tell me what type of sports bra I require to pass my physical fitness test.
I did become pregnant with my first child during my time in the military, and that is a complete game changer, because at that point there are a lot of limitations on what you can do physically. There are a lot of limitations on your stamina, on what you can lift and what you can carry at that point. So certainly there are going to be times where others are going to look at you and say, you're not necessarily pulling your weight, and not really understanding or being respectful of the fact that, you're carrying a life. And so you do want to be cautious and to be careful,
I remember coming back to work after 6 weeks of pregnancy with the story I just told you, and I was not ready physically and I was not ready emotionally to leave my child. I ended up with an injury after the birth of my second child that took me over 1.5 years to recover from, because I was expected to be back in a physical shape that I there was that expectation of physical fitness, and so I injured myself because my body wasn't ready to be in that shape it was prior to pregnancy.
I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's been just to have just males at the top making those decisions for so many years. And they are evolving, and I recognize that, and that's great to see that. But I feel like for me personally, I've had a lot of negative impact in my life.
Society as a whole has placed stereotypes on women. Military members interact every day with civilians, and sometimes these stereotypes rear their ugly head.
When we are in civilian clothes, it is always assumed that the reason we're a military family is because of my husband.
Usually that happens around the time of year when Veterans Day, a lot of businesses want to open up to veterans and invite you in for free meals, or just to say, give you a token of appreciation. And over the years, we've been married over 8 years, and it happens pretty much every year. People immediately look to him first and thank him, and they don't even consider that I also served.
So my husband hardly ever pays for a meal because, he's in uniform. Thank you for your service. Let me get your meal today. Is there, why don't you just get a few things and I'll take care of it for you. It's almost always the assumption that he's the only person that served. So typically when they find out, because he will say, my wife's also a veteran, it's definitely not the same level of thank you. Absolutely not.
My husband served for 10 years, and he's been out for almost 8 years now. He's a big guy, he's got a full beard, and people would rather think that he's special forces than to think that I'm the service member. And it has always upset me when people, ask him like, oh, were you ever in? And he's like, yeah. My wife too, she's currently serving, and they just say, oh, that's cool, and then talk to him about his time in the military and just totally ignore anything that he said about me. And
I remember very clearly we were flying back, I think, from visiting my family in Little Rock, and there was an individual behind the counter, and he was a veteran, and he was so excited to see my husband. He was like, hey man, where did you deploy to? And my husband was like, well, I didn't really get to deploy. What did you do in the service? And I was just standing in the background, just behind him, just kind of chilling. Like, it happened so many times. This time I'm like, I'm not even gonna say anything. And so my husband was just talking to him and everything, and I think he kind of knew the drill. And he was like, well, we thank you for your service. We appreciate you. He's just going off. So when it came time to ask for IDs, my husband hands him the dependent ID, and I hand him that white CAC, and I just hear him kind of whisper like, oh, she's the one that's serving, or she's serving too, or something to that effect. And I just looked at him. I didn't say anything.
I try to be lighthearted about it, but after 16 years, it's how it is, and it's kind of the accepted way of our community is just not recognizing women service members.
We played a short guessing game with our military members and veterans.
45%.
67%.
Maybe 40%.
In the United States, 49%.
16, 18%.
20%.
I want to say it's like 7%.
I want to say maybe 30%.
I assumed we were underrepresented.
14%.
Yes.
Wow.
I think that's really sad. I think that's incredibly sad.
So I think one of the biggest things is we live in a patriarchal society where, men are the protectors, and they're the ones who, join the military and protect their families. So I think that's one thing that we would have to overcome as a society as a whole, and to realize that women are just as tough and are able to support and protect their family just like men are, or are perceived to do so. I think
I think we're doing a lot as far as, I won't say targeting, but, marketing towards a younger audience. Unfortunately, they're doing that a lot through gaming systems, and I still think we have a disparity there. We have a lot of female gamers, but I would venture to say we probably have a lot more male gamers than we do females. So I wish that we could put some of that marketing and the money that we're spending towards really making sure that our commercials and the advertisements that we see on television are diverse.
So low when there are so many things women have to offer to the military. And that's across all forces, not just the Army, but just across all military. There's so much women can offer. They're capable, they're incredibly smart. Women are statistically more agile.
I don't know where I saw this, but I was at a promotion party, and there was a woman there, and it was time for her to put on her jacket with her new rank, because at this time nobody wanted you tacking anybody on and punching their rank on. And so her daughter, I think, ran up to the stage or something like that. She was holding her daughter in one hand and she was putting on her jacket with the other hand. And I was like, that so represents what it's like to be a mom and serve. People don't know how powerful that is. That's not weakness. That is strength. That's agility. That's handling business and keeping all the balls in the air, and a lot of people cannot do that.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of my leaders, when I came back from drug demand reduction, which is basically a program where they test military members to see if they have had any substance or anything, illegal substance or anything. And it was one of those things where I had to go and I had to watch somebody urinate. It was just a fact of the program. So it was females had to go and watch females urinate. That was the process. So I got back from that and we were standing there talking, and he goes, "Oh, are you done looking at vaginas?" And so I knew the drill. In that squadron, you had to give as good as you got. So I was like, "Nope, I'm looking at one right now." And everybody kind of bust out laughing.